Here is update number 4 on the arcade project. This happens to be on the Donkey Kong. And to give you an idea where I'm headed, this is an original Donkey Kong machine, and I'm after the colors. Also in my research I found this bezel that I thought was interesting, so I used the idea to create a bezel for my build here. And this is a look at some of the artwork that I created and had custom printed. And then this happens to be the bezel after I installed it, and you can see that it turned out really well. I didn't have a lot of room at the top and the bottom, but it worked out. Also, one of the questions I've been asked is about the screws that I'm using. These are 6mm, they're a low profile screw, and they're used to hold on the control panel. And they leave a nice finish because the screws do rest on top of the plexiglass. Here's a look at the prototype control panel, and you can see it has a few extra holes. Also, you can see the pockets for the volume control, which is an old school volume control I created. Here's the parts that make up that volume control, and also in a previous video I discussed about how all it's doing is using a disc to open and close the holes, which allows the sound to travel through. And whenever the holes are completely closed up, if you move the wheel enough, it will actually shut off the volume, so you do not have any sound coming out of the speaker. And then here's a look at the control panel, the prototype with the buttons in it and the test fit of the plexiglass. And now here's a look at the finished control panel. This is the actual control panel I cut for this project. And you can see here, this is where I'm cutting the old school volume control pockets. That happens to be the pocket for the adjusting wheel. And this is the larger pocket for the volume control wheel. Here's a look at the overlay that was created, and you can see that I've put a few holes in, put a couple of buttons in and the switch. And one of the tricks I used in order to get the holes exactly where they needed to be was I put the overlay down and I pressed where the holes were, and I used a hole punch and also a piece of scrap material, punched a hole in it, placed it over the overlay where the hole needed to be, and then lined the punch up with the hole that was in my scrap piece, and then punched it through, and that allowed me to get the hole in exactly the right spot. Now here I'm installing the volume control parts, and then once that's done, then the buttons installed, the joysticks installed, and here the control panel is actually mounted to the cabinet. And also I trimmed the front and the sides of the control panel with the white tape, because if you notice back in the original machine, the machine is actually trimmed in white. And there you can also see a little bit of the volume control wheel, and that would be in the right side. And since I've gone this far, I thought I would back up and cut new side panels because I want to paint them blue. I was able to get a sample of the blue, and I took it to my local Ace Hardware, and they were able to match the blue color perfectly. So, well, perfect enough for me anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and cut new side panels and paint those blue. There are a few areas where it's better just to go ahead and do it by hand rather than set the machine up so that it makes all of the cuts. And here's an example here where I'm marking so that I can drill the through holes for the control panel bolts. And now the moment you've been waiting for, here's a look at the side panels ready for the black paint on the inside and the blue paint on the outside. and this blue is really close to the sample that I give them to match. So I'm very pleased with the blue color, and looking forward to finishing this little project. So stay tuned, I'll have more pictures coming soon.